What are you waiting for?
Come join the Geek Drums Nation.
What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. In today's video, we will be talking about Superman and Lois Season 3, Episode 3, entitled In Cold Blood. Now, before we get started with that, if you are new here, if this is your first time ever visiting my channel, first of all, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Secondly, why not hit that subscribe button, turn on the alert bell so you never miss another one of my videos. I would greatly appreciate it. Join the Geek Drums Nation, guys. Excuse me. Now, let's just jump right into this episode because Superman and Lois Season 3 is 343 right now. Like, this episode was phenomenal. We start this episode out. Clark is in a nightmare. He hears Lois calling for him. He rushes out to find her in Metropolis. You see the city crumbling as he flies through it. And the cinematography and everything in this episode was, especially during this scene, was top tier, guys. Like, we see he turns around, he sees where Lois is, and my immediate thinking is, oh, she's right, she's right there, she's right in front of him, he can get to her. But no, as you see as he's flying, it's like the distance is so far, but he does indeed save her this time. But the second time he has the dream in this episode, he does not. And that just goes to show that, it's a lot of fear. Like, he can't save her from this cancer thing. And then this whole episode, you can see how Lois is trying to deal with it because she's scared, rightfully so. Cancer is a scary thing. Any type of sickness is a scary, scary thing. So you see her trying to deal with that and cope the best way she can. And that's by running from it and occupying herself with, her white whale, which is Bruno. So we see that a lot through this episode. And guys, you know how I do. I'm gonna be jumping around because I my notes are like literally all over the place because I was so engulfed in this episode. I was not actively taking notes. That's how good this episode was to me, guys. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. But so what we jump to next is Lois and Clark are sitting at the table. The first person that they call is Lucy. It did sound like the actress Jenna was on the phone with them, so maybe they called her, had her record her lines or whatever. So she's telling the core characters about, her diagnosis. She tells the Cushings because they promised they wouldn't lie to them anymore. So I like that they kept that plot thread. They also go out and tell the Irons family, and you can tell this bothered John because he already lost his Lois. And as he says later on in this episode, he was trying to push it away because he knows it's not his wife, but at the same time, it's his friend. So that's how he was trying to cope with it. Rightfully so. People cope in all types of different ways. I think they're handling this very, very, very well. Some shows would drop the ball. They have not. So kudos to Todd Helbing and kudos to the writing team. They're crafting a great, great, great story for Lois Lane this season. I am thoroughly enjoying it. Now, we catch up with the kids. The kids this episode. I loved it. They're all at the diner and they're telling John that he needs to come clean with Candace about what happened with Eliza at the party, the kiss. He needs to come clean, and rightfully so. You don't want to hide nothing like that from your significant other. This could have gone really, really CW-ish, if you get what I mean, with the drama, but they kept it contained. So we meet Candace's dad, who is a real D-bag, like very, very sleazy. Now, from the last we heard, he was very, very sick, but maybe Candace just told that lie because she had to sell the XK for her father and didn't want John to think less of her because, they live in a trailer home. She doesn't come from money. Like, you can obviously tell she does not, opposite of, Jordan and Jonathan and their upbringing. But the dad starts asking questions about Jonathan's truck. Next thing we know, the truck is stolen. So what do the kids have to do? They have to go steal it back. And that entire sequence, I thought it was really cool. It was fun to have John actually in on the action. And, the whole plan to throw the smoke bomb in there and, smoke out the place. It's basically, that was a chop shop. The dude was, that was a chop shop. Candace's dad was going to scrap that car for parts. Rightfully so. It's going to be worth a lot of money to get. Maybe it's for drugs, or maybe he's in on the whole Bruno Mannheim thing as well. We don't know how far this whole intergang thing goes in Smallville and in Metropolis. But yeah, He stole the truck. He was asking questions about it. Jonathan, rightfully so, brought it up to Candace. But I get where she was coming from. You just don't want to be, accused of that because that's your father. So again, something that could have been handled very, very badly, it was handled extremely well. And the scene of, you know, Jordan and Nat just taking out the goons left and right while Jonathan's running through there. And then Jonathan gets a punch off and knocks one of them out and drives the car out of there, blasts through the wall, having a blast. And then you see Jordan and Nat flying behind him. Phenomenal. I loved it. I loved it. They look for the watch because this whole episode, Nat wants to do something nice for Lois. So she gifts she gifts I not Iris, she gifts Lois, with the watch that she made for her mother. Of course, John was against it at first, and this is the second time he was like, she's not your mother. He said that to other people. He said she wasn't Lois isn't his wife to Lana. So, I that's what I'm talking about. That top tier writing on how to deal with bad news and how to deal with coping with bad news like that. That's top tier writing for me, guys. I enjoyed every single moment of it. John was against it at first, but at the end of the episode, they reconcile. They come back together like a good father and daughter would. They have to be there for their friends. And Lois and Clark and the boys, that's their family now. That's their friends. So I'm glad that, they handled that. They handled that with grace. It was great. It was great. So if we want to jump to the Cushings, yes, John hooked Lana up with a nice security system. I thought the graphics on that thing were great. That's kind of cool. I would have that in my house. And Sarah brings up, maybe we should get Dad in there. Lana says no. So Sarah's still in trouble for lying about going to Metropolis. They're having their whole mother-daughter spat that they seem to have every season. Didn't too much care for that. But then it led to the slap of all slaps. It led to Slapgate. Lana said, keep my ex-husband's name out your effing mouth to Sarah. That slap, I felt that slap. Now, was Sarah being a brat? Yes, she didn't have to take it that far. She did not have to take it that far. Lana's just trying to protect her as best she could because they just got attacked by automatopoeia. And you lied. Be in a kid's place. Respect your parents, kids. If any kids are watching this, respect your parents. And I say that as a parent to 4 little girls. So, yeah, that's all I'll say on that. It's good to see Lana and John, getting some, time together, some scenes together that ties into the overall story. And it's not just a filler love story, if you get what I mean. Cal shows up to Lana's office under false pretenses of, I'm just coming to check on you, just coming to give you coffee. Lana, rightfully so, treated his life, and I laughed out loud at that. He had the salty face on. After that, we don't really see too much of Kyle until the end of the episode with Chrissy when, they're talking and he's talking to Chrissy about his father's own cancer battle. So, but Sarah walks in after storming out of her mom's house after being slapped. Kyle has to be a father in that moment, which Chrissy understands. Now, with Chrissy is in the same boat as Clark and in the same boat as General Lane as to where they have been dealing with Lois's refusal to deal with this, if I can say it that way, Lois's refusal to deal with this whole cancer diagnosis. Every time she goes to chemo, she missed the first 2 appointments. She rescheduled for a third one, I believe. And she left again when Clark heard a call to Nepal. Now, Tyler Hoechlin's performance, his mannerisms as Clark Kent are freaking amazing because he said he looked like he heard something. She's like, what did he say? He's like, oh, nothing. So then when he goes and she's texting Chrissy and somehow she tracks Chrissy down and Chrissy's like, how did you even find me? She was like, I'm Lois Lane. I mean, rightfully so. It's Lois Lane. Lois Lane is going to find you if she wants to find you. So they go to this lab, this facility where Intergang is harvest. They found one in the beginning of the episode, which is when she missed her first appointment. Excuse me. I don't want to jump too far ahead of myself. So they go to where they found the first facility. It was cleaned out. They did see blood specks. We find out whose blood that is, and I'll jump to that in a second. But they go to this new facility, and they stumble into this freezer that's most likely lined with lead or something. It's insulated. As Clark says later on, it's insulated. So they see all this blood. The door is locked, and Intergang is still in the building. because Lois doesn't want to be coddled. She wants to keep doing what she has been doing because, well, she is scared of this cancer diagnosis, rightfully so, as I keep saying. But she's talking to Chrissy. Her and Chrissy have a heart to heart. I enjoyed this acting between these two phenomenal ladies. Yeah. So they're having a heart to heart. They eventually do come up with a plan because they know the guys are going to come in there anyway. So when they come in there, Lois is standing there with her hands up. She's standing there with her hands up, and she walks out, and then that's when Chrissy walks out with the sonic emitter, as I will call it, the Superman signal, if you will. And he hears her. She starts screaming, Superman, Superman, Superman. He comes in, knocks everybody out the way because he don't play about his wife. He don't play about Lois. He just blew through all the goons, told them to run. And then one of the goons comes up with some kryptonite gauntlets, very powerful kryptonite gauntlets. And he starts giving Superman the work. That's when Steel enters and evens the playing field and saves the day. Steel saved the day. It's good to see the Steel suit again. It's good. It was good to see both Steel suits again. We have not seen them in the first two episodes, so it was good to see him in this episode. John Henry suits up again. Superman and Steel back at it again. I loved it. So we get to the end of the episode, and actually, before we get there, when Clark showed back up at the chemo place, and he walked in like, "Excuse me, have you seen my wife?" His acting, Tyler kills it as bumbling nerdy Clark. He kills it every time, guys. Every time he kills it. I love that. I'm glad he is our TV Superman. If he ever got the chance to do it on a big screen, I'm sure he would kill it as well. But Clark and Lois get home. They talk about like what he's putting his foot down as the husband, as the man of the house, and he's telling her like, why do you keep running? And she basically tells him like she doesn't want to be treated like she's sick. She, that's not the person she is. She's not just the person to lie down and take it. And that's not what he was trying to tell her to do, but I get where she's coming from. So they reconcile. They have that heart to heart. And towards the end of the episode, we see that he is escorting her to chemo like he said he will. And he's walking out, and all the family is there. They present her with the watch. They wish her well in her first actual chemo thing. And let me not jump too far ahead of myself. Before we get to that, we get the phone call. The phone call from General Lane. The blood that they found was Superman's. Now, this is when my brain got to turning, because we know Superman's blood can be used to make a Superboy clone, but it's still Kryptonian blood. Doomsday is a Kryptonian creature. Now, we know the rumors that at the end of the season, from my good friend Kennedy Graphs, that at the end of the season, Clark will be hit by a spiked monster and will be fighting a spiked monster in the finale. Now, could this spiked monster be Henry Miller? Or could it be the John Henry Irons of this Earth? And maybe he will end up being the quote-unquote Doomsday. Or are we getting a Superboy, another Superboy? Are we getting Superman's clone? I highly doubt that. We know we're getting a spike monster, but maybe that could evolve. Maybe I'm being too generous with my theories, but I love this show so much. But yeah, guys, this episode was another 9.5 out of 10 for me. 10 out of 10, even if I wanted to. This episode did not miss. It did not miss. And if you thoroughly enjoyed the episode, let me know your score down below in the comment section. Please, please, please like this video, share this video around. And if you are not yet subscribed, please do subscribe. I will check you guys out next time.